Welcome to Mr. Disturbing. Tonight, we're plunging into the dark heart of the Appalachians with some truly unsettling true horror stories. That'll keep you up all night. If you're brave enough, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next descent into fear. My name is Ryan. I'm 28 years old. I live in a small town near Asheville, North Carolina. I work as a park ranger in the Appalachian Mountains. I've always loved the mountains. They're quiet, they're mystery. But there's one part of these woods, a place they call Devil's Knob. It's where people disappear, and where I nearly lost myself. It started on a late September afternoon. I was sent to check on a group of campers. They hadn't checked in, and no one had heard from them. I drove deep into the forest. The sun was low, casting long shadows. The air was thick with mist. I parked near the trailhead, took my gear, and started walking. The forest was silent, too silent. The birds weren't singing. The usual forest sounds were gone. I followed the trail into the dense woods. The trees grew taller. The canopy blocked out what little sunlight remained. After an hour, I reached a clearing. The campsite was abandoned, tents torn down, a fire pit cold. No sign of the campers. I called their names. Nothing. No response. My gut twisted with unease. I decided to stay overnight, to search at dawn. I set up near the campsite. The night was cold. The fog thickened, and then I heard it. A low whisper. Faint at first, then louder, voices, calling. I couldn't understand the words, but I knew it wasn't friendly. The whispers surrounded me. The fog moved like water. Shapes flickered at the edge of my vision. My flashlight flickered and died. Panic set in. I grabbed my backup light and started running. The trail seemed to shift. Branches grabbed at me. The whispers turned to laughter, cold, cruel. I tripped and fell. The ground beneath me felt soft, too soft, like I was sinking. I scrambled to my feet, and then I saw them. Eyes, hundreds of glowing eyes, surrounding me, watching, waiting. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The eyes blinked once and vanished. The fog cleared. The silence returned. I found my way back to the truck, shaken, exhausted. I reported the campers missing. The search found nothing. No trace, no clues, only the empty forest. Since that night, I've never felt safe in the woods. I hear whispers when the wind blows. I see shadows when the sun sets. I know the mountains hide something dark, something ancient. And sometimes when the fog rolls in thick, I swear I hear my name, calling me back to Devil's Knob. I don't know if I'll ever go back, but I know one thing. The mountains are watching, and they're waiting. The nights after my time at Devil's Knob were worse than I imagined possible. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, that the fog, the shadows, the whispers were just tricks of the forest. But reality refused to cooperate. Strange things began happening, things I couldn't explain. I started noticing dead animals around the ranger station, not just the usual roadkill or predator attacks. These animals looked different. Birds found in the trees, their eyes missing, as if something had taken them. Deer lying in the clearing with no visible wounds, but their bodies drained, cold and lifeless. Rabbits torn apart, yet no blood on the ground. The forest was hiding something sinister, and I was getting closer to the truth. One night, I stayed late at the station, unable to shake the creeping dread. The wind outside was eerily silent, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Around midnight, a faint glow appeared outside my window. I stepped out and saw a strange light flickering between the trees. It wasn't a flashlight or campfire. It was pale, almost unnatural. As I watched, the air grew cold, my breath visible in the moonlight. The shadows shifted and deepened. Then the whispers returned, soft, unintelligible at first, then growing louder, circling me like a cold wind. The ground beneath me trembled. From the darkness emerged figures, thin, pale, and silent. Their eyes glowed faintly red, fixed on me. I wanted to run, but my legs froze. The creatures moved closer, their forms flickering like smoke. I could feel their cold breath, smell the decay. Then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished into the fog. Shaken to my core, I realized the forest wasn't just alive. It was haunted by something older, something dark and vengeful. The night stretched longer with terror, each shadow threatening to consume me. And the whispers, they were no longer random. They called my name, beckoning me deeper into the woods. I don't know how much longer I can resist. The forest is claiming me, and the night waits, patient and hungry. After weeks of torment and restless nights, I finally decided to dig deeper. I went back to the archives at the local library, poring over old newspapers, land records, and folklore collections. I wanted to understand what exactly haunted the Devil's Knob. What was responsible for those vanished campers, the dead animals, the glowing eyes in the fog? So here I stand, haunted by what I have seen and what I cannot explain. The mountains are alive with stories and shadows, with watchers and wanderers lost in time. And as the fog swirls and the night deepens, I can only ask, when the forest calls you by name, will you answer, or will you vanish like so many before? My name is Mason. I'm 34 years old, and I live in a small town on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky. I work as a wildlife biologist, spending long days in the forest studying animal behavior and tracking wildlife populations. The mountains have always been a part of my life, beautiful, wild, and full of stories. But there's one story I never wanted to tell, one that changed everything I believed about these woods. It was late October, when the air turns cold and the mist rolls in thick. I was assigned to survey a remote area near Pine Mountain, a place locals avoid. They say the forest there is haunted, that people vanish without a trace. I didn't believe it. I thought it was just legend, but I was wrong. I arrived just before dusk, the sky heavy with clouds. The forest was eerily silent, no birds, no insects, just the crunch of leaves beneath my boots. As I set up my equipment near an old logging trail, I felt watched. The hairs on my neck stood on end. The sun dipped below the horizon. Fog crept in, swallowing the trees one by one. Suddenly, a figure appeared between the trunks, tall, thin, and pale, with eyes reflecting faint light. It didn't move like any animal I'd seen. It was unnatural. I froze. It vanished into the mist. Panic surged. I tried to follow, but the trail was gone. The forest shifted, paths twisting and disappearing. Whispers filled the air, soft, unintelligible, but insistent. I called out, but only silence answered. Hours passed, or minutes. I lost all sense of time. When dawn broke, I found myself miles from where I'd started. Bruised, exhausted, and terrified. Days later, I discovered dead animals near the trail. Deer with no wounds, birds missing their eyes. The forest was hiding something dark. I learned of an old burial ground nearby where many had died in tragic accidents, a place said to be cursed. I visited once, the air heavy and cold. Strange symbols were carved into the stones. Whispers echoed faintly on the wind. I felt a presence, watching, waiting. I don't know what I faced in those woods. A spirit? A creature? Something older than the mountains themselves. All I know is the forest is alive, and it's not done with me. Sometimes at night, I hear those whispers calling my name, beckoning me back. The Appalachian Mountains hold secrets that refuse to stay buried, and I fear the day I answer that call.